Right, so today basically we're starting to pull stuff together. Actually, the media's role in things is part of, it's something we've touched on, I think, every time we've got, was just what's happening in the media and what the media decide they're going to promote, and also is who's paying the media to promote certain things, and also to diss certain things as well, which of course is more of what's happening now is to try to get Joe blogs to think certain things are rubbish, like homeopathy and things like that. Because there was all the stuff to do with what doctors don't tell you, which I think you missed us discussing that bit.
It's all
on the tape. So it's things like that, and it's the fact that we're living in times where things are changing very quickly, and it's like at some point, it's knowing what the sort of bottom line you can hold as an individual in whatever role that you're playing. And the other things we're looking at today is about, we've done some of it, where you get your food, what happens to it. It's like if you want to go and get asparagus, which is out of season, you go to the supermarket, now your asparagus is coming from Peru. Because it's out of season. And the processes that we've been, it's all stuff that we've actually been touching on every time. Processes, what happens to it, storage. And there's also, to some extent, about how people cook their food. There was quite a scary little, I know it was a blog, it was something on one of the minor news channels, about the fact that for a lot of people now, all the food they eat is microwaved.
Yeah. Especially the elderly.
And the youngsters. Someone was saying how many people feeding their babies formula heated up in the microwave.
Yes. They're doing it with my kids this morning. Yeah. Oh, it's ever so easy. Just whack it in the microwave. Yeah. Did you know what?
And it's like, and they're saying it's so they're looking at probably for the first generation or couple of generations that have probably never had food that's not been microwaved. As a general thing. I mean, it's fine to have it now and again, and what have you. But all your meals, and especially if you're feeding it to people who are vulnerable, so the very, very young, the very, very old, and people who are at crucial times, like, if you're pregnant, it's like, in other words, your body's, sort of going through a lot of changes anyway. If that's the only source of the nutrition you're getting is foods that have been microwaved, the quality of nutrients that you're able to take out of that food.
Did you talk about microwaving food? So it basically
destroys... No, we haven't.
Does it destroy the nutrients or have an effect on the nutrients?
Well, I think there's some schools of thoughts that it actually means the nutrients become less bioavailable. In other words, the body's not able to actually extricate the nutrients in the same sort of way because the food's been subject to that particular wavelength of basically wavelength of light, but it's invisible light, the wavelength of light and the effect that it has on food. That it actually, and I think the base experiment is, I think they've been showing it, somebody's been pushing this recently, and I've done it before anyway, is if you have two identical little pot plants, and you feed one even water out of the tap, and you feed the other one water that's been microwaved and cooled down, the plant that you're feeding the microwave water with dies very quickly.
It just dies.
Yeah. A few years ago now, I used to have a microwave in my old house, and I decided to get rid of it. I took it out the dump and just threw it away. And when I walked back in the kitchen, the energy difference was just incredible. I would never have believed it.
Yeah, I get them in mine. I mean, I only use it for jacket potatoes, but I do use it.
Yeah.
Boil them instead.
What, boil the jacket potato before I put it in the oven?
Yeah, or put a skewer up through it.
I do that, but it still takes an hour. Though.
Yeah, but you see, if you do it microwave, then it doesn't take very long at all.
It takes
but the thing is, I mean, if you're having potatoes like that every day, that's one thing. If you're having potatoes like that now and again, there's something else.
Yeah.
And if you're only doing it for your jacket potatoes, why bother with it at all?
Well, no, that's what I'm thinking. I might just put my oven on and get a bit more organised.
Say, what about getting food out the freezer? Put it in the steamer. Like we used to steam your stuff.
And of course that's the whole thing about food preparation. It comes down to actually how people are cooking their food now compared with how they were cooking their food 30 years ago, say. And the whole thing about the quality of the food that we're having now. And of course this comes now then into the arguments the government are putting forward. You know, like, you shouldn't need to supplement your food. You know, this is absolutely, you know, you should, and, you know, and the difference between organic food and non-organic food. Why are you worrying? You know, you can get all the goodness you require from your food. That's the stance the government tend to take. If you talk to anybody from Food Standards Agency, they're down the line. That is their link, you know.
A mantra.
Yeah, basically, it is a mantra they live by. And they've had it thrown at me as well at that level. And we've been up discussing about essences, actually. That was their mantra. And you're thinking, well, yeah, but, you know, then you have other reports saying that the amount of nutrients in the food that is even grown now, compared with 20 years ago, is so much less.
It tastes different too.
You know, it's like, and people will tell you that. It's like, I think it was the first time I had organic tea, you know, ordinary tea. It tastes so different from tea that I'd had for, it's like, it took me right back to being, you know, knee-high to a grasshopper. Thinking the last time I tasted tea like that, I was very young. And it's the same with food. And I mean, there's stuff in your notes in your info book today about just how depleted even naturally grown food is today that we can buy. Food that we can grow ourselves is probably better, but then we have the problem of the types of seeds and plants that we are being allowed even to grow ourselves now, because that's also been cut down. Sometimes you'll get things like heritage carrots and things like that when you'll get violet carrots, because that's their natural colour is violet.
Of carrots?
Carrots, yes. The orange is we bred orange ones. But any violet food, violet is not a pleasing colour to get the digestive juices going, but orange is. So, but actual heritage carrots are actually violet.
So does that mean that an orange carrot is very good for your brow chakra in terms of colour food, because it's violet really?
Well, you're going to have both. You're going to have the carrotness, which is the same regardless of what colour it is. But then you're going to have the orange carrots are going to be particularly good for second chakra stuff, and particularly good for anything to do with orange and, you know, large intestine, colon, that sort of, all that area, letting go of everything. But of course then if you go and buy some heritage carrots, then just the colour vibration is going to have an effect itself. Though you're still going to have the fact that the carrots are a good source of fibre, so you're going to have the gifts, you know, to the digestion from the fibre side of things.
But to pick on something that you said earlier, it's like, you know, kids, or most people, go to the supermarket, so they don't know where the food comes from.
Or they don't know, because they have to say now. That's one advantage now, they have to say on the packet where the food comes from. They don't
know it comes from the ground.
No.
And what you were saying about seasonal food, I bet a lot more.
No.
I think you're right.
Particularly in the America, well, particularly the West, Western Europe, they don't, because the fact it's so easy to fly stuff in, beans in from Kenya. You know, I think it's like we got so used to being able to have early strawberries and late strawberries from places like Spain. You know, whereas if you had strawberries that were local strawberries, you know, you get them just before Wimbledon, you know, the classic, and just after Wimbledon, and that's it. That's the end of your strawberries.
And that's why strawberries were so exciting, because there was just a short
period
window,
of time,
wasn't there?
They tasted better.
Yeah,
They
they had
did.
flavour, didn't they?
I used to have a strawberry patch when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Go raid it every day.
Yeah. But, you know, it's things like that, is that people's whole dietary habits would change if you started to eat seasonally. But then if you start to eat seasonally, you probably actually eat better.
Cabbages in the winter.
It's a bit boring.
But it can be boring.
And I think that's a problem with our society now. We're so used to having so much choice. Because I think, oh right, so I had a lovely stew last night, which was lovely. You know, lots of root vegetables and stuff like that. That was really great. I don't know if I want to eat that every day of the week. I think I'll be bored of that in
Yeah.
about 2 weeks' time.
Yeah.
And shame on me for being so, but I know that, you know...
I bet if you went back to the Tudor farm kitchen, they would have found ways around the boredom.
Yes.
Yeah,
By
but adding new
by
herbs
adding
and
herbs.
something.
Adding herbs and having the spice, because they did have spices at
Yes,
that
they
time.
did. Yeah.
And having using spices to actually change
They
it.
showed it at the market. They
Yeah.
just started bringing cinnamon.
Yeah.
Or they're so grateful that they've got some food in their plate, they'll then
Well, there's
think,
also
I don't
that as
care,
well.
I've
Well,
got
they called
something
it
to eat.
cottage, and it would just be they just keep adding to it every day.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, yes.
yeah.
So I was wondering about the hygiene of that, how they would just
Yeah.
keep...
But then you see,
constantly just boiling.
but if it's boiled, then
It's just
you know
kept over the fire.
you kill the bugs.
Mm.
Yeah.
And they'd have whatever that was in season. So she was saying that for 2 weeks you might be sick of the sight of a certain thing, then the season would slightly change, or animals, a certain type of animal would come a season to go, or fish or something like that.
Yeah.
You'd always find something.
Yeah.
There's also the right. Strawberries were easy to pick, right? Raspberries were nice but harder to pick.
Yeah.
Gooseberries were a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
Blackberries, they were like a gift from the gods.
Yeah, because they all came at the same time as
Yeah.
apples. So
It's
your
the
blackberry and
autumn
apple was
ones, yeah.
the autumn. I mean, hence all the Harvest Festival celebrations, because that was the
All the fruits
abundant
coming
time of
in.
the year.
Yeah.
You know, that was when everything was there.
Going back to what you said about kids and not knowing where things come from,
Mhm.
I feel like I'm quite a fairly educated woman. I still don't know where chickpeas, how are they grown? I was thinking about chickpeas and lentils
They're
and...
a legume.
They're
They're a pod.
legumes.
So
Pods.
they
Pods.
would look like a sugar snap or a runner bean or something similar to that, and they're
Well, like a sweet
podded
pea, that
and
kind
then
of
dried.
thing.
Yeah. Well, certainly all legumes are like that. I must admit, I'm not
Pea.
awfully sure about chickpeas.
No, I'm not.
I'm not sure.
Nor for that, it's not that.
Underground.
Which
No,
is
peanuts
ground.
underground,
They're
aren't they?
underground.
I thought they were on a little bush until that came up on a quiz night.
Yeah.
Ah,
no,
I
no,
thought
no,
on a bush on a bush.
no, they are.
Mm.
They're
And if you
underground.
think the legume
It'll be
family,
worth actually
they
surfing.
fix nitrogen into the soil
Well, as
through
well.
their roots. So
Yeah.
if you think that they're like little pods of nitrogen, and that's where you get them from.
So it's not really anybody's fault in a way, the younger generation, because they see, I see chickpeas in a bag. And
Yeah.
that's the only way I've ever seen them is in a
Mm.
bag that you then boil, or in a tin perhaps.
Mm.
So,
reconstitute
the young
it.
kids who see their rice
Yeah.
and your,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
your chips.
Yeah.
I wonder if they even know that chips are potatoes.
Yeah, well, this is it. Yeah.
Maybe they don't even
And they
realise
come
that
out
chips
that
are
bag
potatoes.
out the freezer.
Yeah.
But even if you then get a child to prepare chips from potatoes, they still know where potatoes come from. So unless
Yeah.
they've actually gone and dug up.
But I remember when
You know,
my
but-
niece and nephew were small, we had a huge garden in those days, and we were digging up potatoes when they came round to see
Yeah.
us one day.
Yeah.
And they were, well, what are they? They're potatoes. And that was 35 years ago, and they didn't know where
Yeah.
potatoes came from.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the issue that we're dealing with today is that, I mean, and it's the same with things like meat and that. It's
Mm.
like when people find out, it's like then they have different things to deal with.
That chicken that they have on the plate, is that the fluffy thing that's running around?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
why the Hugh Fearnley-Whittingstalls and the Jamie Oliver and those type of people are trying to bring it back out to communities of people and kids to understand where food really does come from.
Yeah.
There's another programme last week, Adam Hansen
Oh, that's right.
Nigel Slater.
Nigel Slater, yeah.
There's a farmer and a chef, and they're working together to grow things so they can show how things have come together.
Oh, what a great
Like
idea.
making pasta.
Pasta.
So
I mean,
Adam
he
through Durham
grew-
wheat.
Yeah, but it's interesting as well
Yeah,
is
so
that
that's
Nigel
this
Slater calls himself a cook,
Yes, not a
not a
chef.
chef.
yeah.
And I thought that's very interesting because, like
Mm.
with Delia Smith, she calls herself a
Cook.
not a chef. So it's the cook that brings, if you like, the
Yeah,
the everyday stuff
absolutely.
into how things work. And it's like there are more of those sorts of programs to show people
Yeah.
where stuff comes from. Because, like you say, a high percentage aren't going to have a clue.
Mm.
Yeah.
And that's just because of the way society's been.
And it's not being taught in school.
And
It's
it's
just
not being
about to
taught
say
in
that
there.
education.
Mm.
It's going to be taught. So, and if the parents don't know, and if you haven't got the wherewithal or the
Yeah.
time to research it yourself,
Or even to show it.
Well,
or
that's
to,
why
yeah.
Hugh has pushed the sort of community growing.
Yeah.
If you've got a piece of ground that you're not using,
Mm.
let somebody else grow stuff on it.
Yeah, because you always
Join
have a glance
together.
of something.
Yeah,
you
of
can
course
never,
you do.
never. So yeah,
Yeah, that's why
One
you
person
see
does
a
potatoes,
trust
one
table or
person
something, and
carrots.
people put their surplus out to give
Yeah.
away, to sell or exchange.
Because that was the other thing is when things are grown like that, you have surplus.
So you cook them and freeze them.
You know, or you share. You have to
Or
share.
you dry them.
Yeah.
So there has
Whatever.
to be that
You don't waste it.
community thing about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
But
getting
did you see
inspired.
it was on Country File probably about 3 weeks ago? And it was in Ireland, and there's been this big cow famine or something like that in Ireland because of the
Oh,
drought.
yes.
because they didn't get the right nutrients in the
Yeah.
spring, did they? 'Cause
Yeah,
the grass
that's right.
didn't grow.
And did you
Yeah.
see what one farmer has started
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah.
In that basically, he grows his grass in a
Hydroponics.
hydroponic
Yes,
in a
yes.
cabinet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Now, they said it that the cows loved it.
Oh,
Yeah.
They
they're
loved
mad
it
for
because it's got all the nutrients
Yeah.
in the water.
Yeah.
But I was thinking, okay, it's got positives, but at the same time, it's not natural because it's a very controlled cabinet,
Yeah.
way of doing it.
Which is hydroponics.
Yeah.
Have got to be like that because of the nature
Yeah.
of hydroponics. Yeah.
So you can see that. Oh, right. The solution is we'll go this
Yeah.
way.
But the other interesting with that chap is that the cows that he was feeding were Dexters, and the cows that died were
Well,
the expensive Charolais
Yeah.
And the
big cows,
Dexters were
and the
grown originally
Dexters
to suit that ground.
are
Yeah.
small cattle.
Yeah.
You see them actually around here.
Yes.
Small cattle.
We mentioned it on the
Um,
moors yesterday.
And they so they're more suited to poorer grazing anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and because they haven't been super bred, they're actually
They're suited to that area.
that's suited to that area, and they're suited to land that hasn't had a lot of
Messing around.
fertilisers and whatever to make the stuff grow.
That's interesting. In terms of just thinking about our sheep, maybe we should go back to the original West Country sheep. I don't know what they are.
Well, it depends.
But in
I
terms
don't know
of-
whether there are any original West Country sheep left.
Ah.
You know,
Probably somewhere.
must be
Yeah.
somewhere.
The rare breed farms
Oh,
have.
well,
Yeah.
no,
Yeah.
they're not going down the rare breed route. I don't
Well,
think.
exactly. But it's like even if you go to Wales and the sort of sheep they have there are very different to the ones here. They're much smaller.
Then leeches.
Yeah, I just
got
was going to
Scotland,
say,
Surrey sheep
and it's
stuff like
because
that,
the
yeah.
land up there can't sustain
Mm.
the bigger Suffolk specialist sheep that we have down here. You know, it depends why you've got your sheep.
Whether it's for
Meat.
wool or meat.
Yeah, well, that's right. And of course, if for different reasons, then you can have different breeds.
Oh, you should watch the Tudor Farm
Yeah,
then.
you'd enjoy that.
Yeah,
wouldn't
I'm
you?
recorded that. I'm a bit worried I've missed one actually, but we've.
Oh,
Uh,
BBC
we've
on the
actually-
web.
Yeah.
I've got an iPad now for my birthday,
Oh,
so I will be able to catch up with everything. I won't use it yet
Yeah.
though. But
yeah.
And
And
ask
so-
for the books to accompany the series. Your Christmas
And,
present.
and so there's quite a bit in your workbooks you this time about all this stuff about where the food comes from, how it's stored, you know, and then what happens when it's prepared. And it's like that, and a lot of it is common sense, but you see, it's also got to bear in mind that Joe Bloggs, for example, isn't going to have this understanding. And so if you've got a Joe Bloggs person come to you who wants to have healthier eating habits, okay, so we do it in its broadest possible sense, then you can see that issues to do with what they're buying and what they're then cooking and how they're cooking does become something that you need to impart to them, but they might not want to know because of the way they live.
Time is a massive factor.
Yeah.
in
You know, and so, you know, it's like the 2 units that are in this course that are from the national curriculum, you know, are very much into this idea. There's yes, if you want to lose weight, you know, you exercise more, you do this, you do that, and it's like what we've been saying over the weeks is that it ain't that simple. You know, because if you exercise makes you fit, it doesn't necessarily make you lose weight. You've got 2 different animals, but of course, the way the government sees it, it's one. You know, and so it's like saying, well, you know, even if you can just get people eating real food, you know, that's probably going to be a big ask for a lot of people anyway.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like it's getting it into perspective, and not thinking that you've got to help people change little things, and when they get going they can change a bit more, but if you try and get people to change too much, you forget it, you lose it. You know, so there's a lot to think about if you have, it's all right if you have somebody who's already fairly aware of their health and whatever, they're going to be probably a little bit more switched on. But if you're dealing with, like a mum from the same playgroup, or somebody that you meet that is just in the general swim of things, you've got to realise that you're actually into an educational situation as much as you're into anything else. And so this idea that people, you just put them onto some, equivalent of the Slimmers World or whatever for 3 weeks and they're going to lose weight, blah, 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 blah. It's like, dream on, it ain't that simple. But unfortunately, the government thinks it's that simple. And which is, I think, is why they're having virtually zero success with all their campaigns. Over the last 5 or 6 years, we've had all sorts of campaigns. They've been low salt, low fat, low sugar,
high in fibre.
High fibre. But the things that come with each of those campaigns aren't really real food.
It's funny looking back on video footage from the 70s. I saw something on young people in Devon, and they were all skinny. Kids were just thin.
Yeah.
And
healthy.
Well, yeah, healthy.
Or
thin for
walking.
nowadays, but probably the right sort of body weight. But I look at a slim person now, and I think, you're too thin. So I think also our perception of what is thin has changed. I think we've kind of gone, it's like, I look at my husband and I think, no, you're looking a bit skinny. But actually, I look at him and think, he's probably what he should really be.
But especially doing the work he does.
Yeah.
And he probably burns an awful lot of calories.
Yeah.
And the last thing, the main thing is just getting the nutrients in there, and the calories. The rest take care of itself. But then you find that with people who are physically active naturally in their jobs, they will have a tendency to be their right ways.
Yeah.
The drawback we have is one of the big things that changed in the last 30 years. We've become much more sedentary. And so for people to still be trim, we're not saying not skinny, but trim, is actually not so easy.
No.
There's a thing on the internet, if you Google BMI, basal metabolic index, you can put in your weight and your height and it will tell you the number of calories that you use a day just by doing rat sort. Okay, in other words, if you did nothing. And I put my weight and height in, and I basically, for me to just exist in a day, is about 1,300 calories. All right, so that's me not doing anything.
Wow.
Okay, so as soon as you do something, your requirement for calories goes up. But you can also see for that is if I wanted to lose weight,
You'd have to be below that.
I need to go under 1,300 calories a day. And I wouldn't need to do anything else. I don't need to go and exercise. I just need to keep under 1,300 calories a day. And my body will very, very slowly lose weight, which of course is the best way to do it. So it becomes quite interesting to see what a resting metabolic index is for yourself, but to get some idea of actually just to even keep your body chuntering along.
Yeah, I agree with that, because when I was not doing anything, I was losing weight even though I was eating. I couldn't understand, because I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, but your body's working like nobody's business, just to keep you functioning.
Trying
I
to
lost
get
shekels
better.
when I was around.
Yeah.
Just to keep you functioning. And the other interesting thing is that the amount that an adult woman needs and a child needs, there's actually not a lot in it. A child needs a little bit more. But it actually gives you an idea is that a female index, obviously men's metabolism, obviously they need more calories just to maintain the status quo. But it actually was quite shocking that actually they were very much on a par through, sort of like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old child and a grown woman. It's actually very similar.
But some adolescent boys, they can't eat enough.
Enough?
Their calorie intake has to go up and up.
Seriously up.
Seriously up, because
Yeah.
they just can't eat enough to keep pace with their growing.
Yeah, that's right. And this is the trouble when you have a growth spurt, But of course, when you've gone past that, that's usually when things become an issue. But it's very interesting looking around at how things like that are changing. And it's like the whole idea of, what's the word? Body mass index. Okay. Is that it used to be that if you were 29 or below, you were considered overweight or needed to lose some weight. Somebody dropped that to 27 a few years ago. So now, if you're in that slightly overweight,
27 to 29,
you're now considered obese. So I'm considered to be obese. Now, neither of us are obese. We're overweight, even accounting for our age and whatever. You know, we are obese, we ain't. But we're in that class of obeseness.
So has the word obese changed slightly from how we used to use it maybe 20 years ago?
Yeah.
No, well, it has a little bit, but it's also that the measurement that they use, the doctors use and the gyms use, has actually meant that people who are slightly overweight, like Ariana and myself, are now considered to be obese.
They're trying to scare us into losing weight.
The market's increased.
Yeah. And that's basically what they've done all the way down. And it's like there was somebody was having a go at H&M last week. Apparently, they bought, it was the model actually. She's a size 14, and she bought jeans from 6 different places. And when she got them on, when she went to H&M, she had to get into a 16 before they would fit her. And she said, and what are we doing? And Primark's the same. What are we doing to our youngsters who are maybe, size 12
like that
and go into a shop like that and suddenly find they've got to buy a pair of trousers 2 sizes too big. So they're going to then think, oh, I'm fat, I'm overweight. And then go into some crash diet of trying to lose weight. I mean, it's one of the reasons I find that I think I went into H&M once and I looked at one of their extra large things.
It's a joke, isn't it?
And I just thought, forget that for a laugh.
You'd never fit into any of I would never fit into any of their stuff.
No.
It's for really small kids.
And people. Because I'm basically size 18 here, size 14 here. And so it's actually a nightmare anyway, but it's always been a bit that way. But it's like, it's really quite scary when you go into a popular shop like that and you find actually you can't buy
try trousers on in Peruna in the same ones that you bought 2 years ago, all of a sudden you think, well, that was a 16 and I have to even go up to a 20 and you still can't get your legs in the trousers.
Yeah. So you've got this really bizarre thing going on with how the media and the government and the people that are taking these measurements and how it's actually changing.